which is Pikachu and Zekrom against Pikachu and Zekrom, the deck which is becoming a bit of a meme for it doesn't matter what is released. The big new deck from Battle Styles is a fighting type Urshifu, and yet Pikachu and Zekrom is still here. Let's head on over into the game and see if we are going to get that winner's final setup with two Pikachu and Zekrom decks.
We're going to be following the Pikachu and Zekrom side as well, as Jeremy is going to win that coin flip. Typically, you will choose to go second as the Pikachu and Zekrom player, as we've just seen in that last series. So you do allow Kevin to go ahead and get that early energy drop on Victini. So again, Victini is fine going first and second, much different to all the other Welder decks that we've seen in previous formats, the likes of Center Scorch, the likes of Tempozard. These sorts of decks have to go second, really, so they can get their full output rolling, whereas the Victini is happy either way. You can go second. If you can establish an early energy drop, you're still happy with that. And Jeremy has the early Boltund, which is excellent. Kevin starting out with Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX.
And that is kind of an interesting one, of course, because all you need to do is attach this turn, and then next turn it's Energy Welder, and you can just casually KO a Boltund for your first two prizes. Or you can attach to a Victini, getting ready for a Victini V Max, which, again, for just 2 energy, can KO that Boltund next turn. So I'd be interested to see what's in Kevin's hand here. That Boltund, it is going to be great for accelerating energy for Jeremy, but there's a very good chance that after a single Electrify, Kevin is going to be in a position to take a KO and go up a couple prizes here.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways he can try and piece it together. He can try and attach to the Reshiram and Charizard for turn and then just hope to hit the Welder for the full, you know, either the GX attack or the first attack on the Reshiram and Charizard, the Flare Strike, so you can hit 230. That's kind of vulnerable to Crushing Hammers. But, you know, the best thing about Welder is you can tip the scales back in your favor and just outpace the Crushing Hammers in the first place. Kevin is going to be able to Giant Half straight out the gate, has a quick look through his deck, grabs a couple Fire Energies. One small thing to note about Jeremy's deck list is that he does not play Chaotic Swell, so Hearth is going to stay in play this entire game now. That's why you see Kevin throwing away a backup one here. Let's see what else Kevin has available to him. You don't really like using the Double Blaze GX super early if you can help it, especially when it's into a V Pokemon, which Victini can deal with much more easily. So we'll see if he has any other plays available to him. We are going to see a Quick Ball come out now.
Absolutely, and you've got to think it's either going to be for draw or for Victini. There comes the Victini. As much as I think, well, Reshiram and Charizard's in the active could be building that up, it's so much less energy. And like you've said, you almost make yourself Crushing Hammer proof, because if Jeremy does hit heads on a hammer here, Kevin can still VMAX Welder, and then that Victini is still ready to go. And we are going to see the hammer coming down, but it's a Tails.
Yeah, pretty awkward. It's always good to force the Welder out of Kevin because you don't want them to have the luxury of Professor's Research here. Jeremy is going to be discarding his Pikachu and Zekrom, again, in favor of Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. It's not really for type coverage in this sort of approach. Really, it's just because you have an additional 30 hit points to try and stay 1 energy more out of range, out of the regular Victini V, that tries to capitalize on the amount of energy you have on all of your Pokemon. But do bear in mind that Kevin also plays Mewtwo and Mew, and you can sometimes burst Welder onto the scene, so it can be risky to use it for Jeremy. The good news is Kevin can't Boss's Orders and Welder in the same turn, so you can always be aware of when the Mewtwo can come into play. So you only have to be really careful when it's in the active spot.
Absolutely, and I feel like we're back in 2012 here with Mewtwo up against Mewtwo countering each other. Oh, the memories. It does look like Jeremy is going to be going for that Mewtwo and Mew, like you say. It is a great attacker. And, you know, it's got the utility. You can copy Pikachu and Zekrom, or you can copy Raichu, Alolan Raichu. You've got a number of different attacks. And, oh, Crobat for 6 is always nice to refill your hand.
Yeah, especially when you've already achieved pretty much everything you want to this turn. You could go ahead and research here. You are losing one of your 2 reset stamps, but you are activating the potential for Coco straight away for even more burst. And it's interesting to see that Jeremy opted to put the Air Balloon on the bench. He's almost expecting this Boltund to electrify and then basically get knocked out immediately. That's why you're not seeing him commit any more resources into it. Jeremy does pick up that backup Mewtwo as well, so you could get a proactive Dance of the Ancients as well if you want to, and just set up both of your tag teams super early. That's what we're going to be seeing by the looks of things. Yep, just set up both the tag teams and say, get through these two, Kevin. These are my biggest attackers. These are versatile. I can copy all sorts of things here. And it gets a ton of energies into play at the end of this turn.
Yeah, if you can fire off a Dance of the Ancients as well as an Electrify in one turn and your attachment, you know, that's 5 energy cards on the board turn 1. And this is one of the great things Pikachu and Zekrom can do. And we've seen the deck evolve over time. Mewtwo and Mew, around about the Players' Cup too, especially the qualification period, Mewtwo and Mew was not played in these decks. As I was going through qualification playing Excadrill, they were not playing Mewtwo and Mew. I loved playing against Pikachu and Zekrom. But as we got into the finals of Players' Cup 2 and certainly the qualification for Players' Cup 3, Mewtwo and Mew has really become a staple in the deck. It's to cover your weakness, it's so you can hit for a new weakness, it's to give more tricks and utility, or extra HP against those ADP decks. It gives a lot of tricks that just Pikachu and Zekrom in and of itself doesn't have.
Yeah, it's really strange that 240 hit points is almost getting power crept out of the format at this point. The extra 30 is just so vital for that Mewtwo and Mew. And Kevin is going to, once again, looks like starting off with a Giant Hearth here. I believe that was what he's discarding. Yeah, a couple fires coming out for him. Could be a telltale sign that there is going to be a Welder coming in. So here we go. He can weld to the active if he wants to have the option of Double Blaze, see what he draws, and if he can still piece together a VMAX, he can turn attach to the Victini as well. So his turn's starting off pretty solid here.
Yeah, it does attach to the active, so that tells us we are getting the weaker version of the GX attack coming out. But even the weaker version of the GX attack is still going to be enough to get a KO on the Boltund. And we've got a Victini with an energy ready to VMAX and get going next turn. This is a really strong start from Kevin. And Jeremy's deck doesn't really have a great way to one-hit KO this Reshiram and Charizard, but does have some paralysis tricks.
Yeah, so he might be trying to piece together that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. He does have the radar already in hand. He could try and combine it with maybe the Yell Grunt this turn on the bench, where you try and make a paralysis play. You can balloon and then switch back into your Mewtwo, or you can just attach to the benched Mewtwo and go ahead and Tandem Shock. If you play that alongside the Yell Grunts, you're forcing Kevin to have switch out with only a draw 3 from Welder. So that seems to make the most sense for me here. So attaching to the active means he has to use the switch now, but it looks like he may be dead changing it all away regardless. Oh, interesting. Going for this route, going for the active to make it more difficult to get flare striked by the looks of things.
Absolutely, and a Crushing Hammer comes down. That's another Tails that is not good. The Team Yell Grunt Crushing Hammer combo would have been great, and it looks like we're actually seeing a full blitz. So rather than going paralysis to try and stop the attack, we see some energy denial to try and stop the attack, and then get the energy acceleration. Slightly less strong in terms of stopping the attack, but certainly stronger in terms of setting up your own Pokemon. And Jeremy looks like he's working on a big tag bolt as well here.
Yeah, he's got big plans. He's got 5 energy on his Mewtwo and Mew now. It can get punished by Kevin going ahead and, you know, welding to his own Mewtwo, but Jeremy also has that backup Mewtwo with enough energies to take a response KO. So Kevin's got to be treading carefully right now. There are knockouts for him, but Jeremy is also setting up some big plays here with Tag Bolt next turn.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. And like you said earlier, that Victini's got an attack that does more damage for each energy attached to both actives. So when there are 6 energy on the active, that does actually make Victini V a really viable attacker against something like a Mewtwo and Mew. But we do see a Welder coming down here, and it is onto Victini.
This will be a KO. Yeah,
we're going to need some math.
The switch. No, it's a KO.
Perfect math. 270 damage, 30 damage for each energy attached to both active, 5 on the Mewtwo and Mew, 4 on the Victini. We said the Victini was a viable attacker.
Yeah.
That's just how viable it is. And I'm starting to feel a little vindicated, because I said we don't usually see them getting the energy onto themselves. 3 games in a row the Pikachu player did it. Now we've seen why we don't often see it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only risk there for Jeremy. He could have just done it onto the benched Mewtwo instead, and then you're denying Kevin from the exact play that he's just made. Now Jeremy's going to go ahead and try and take some sort of response here and try and weave it in with a reset stamp. Does find the stamp, which is certainly going to be helpful here, and the Crushing Hammer as well. That's going to try and strip more energies off the Reshiram and Charizard, just keep him well away from that Flare Strike and only limit him to outrage attacks by the looks of things. But Jeremy doesn't have an easy way to take a KO here. He might be just using Tag Bolt for the requisite 200. Yeah, that's what we're going to see. He's going to wipe out the Victini here just with 2 prizes.
It's got to be
Hope the
done.
stamp sticks, yeah.
It's the only way you're getting a kill on Victini, and that Victini, which ironically has an attack very similar to the Mew EX that was the Mewtwo EX that was the Mewtwo Wars back in 2012. Now we've got, we have to get rid of it, and Kevin is in an awkward position here. With Boss's Orders energy, we would actually see a win here.
Wow, here we go. Quick ball for Dedenne or Crobat here. So a fresh 6 cards. As you say, Outrage plus Boss is game. And Kevin plays a ton of Gusting Outs. He plays 4 Boss's Orders and 2 Pokegear. Is the Crobat going to get there? There's the well played. Kevin over the line with an easy Outrage. Jeremy just falling into the trap of Victini V. It's not just a springboard. You don't just evolve into it. You can also use the regular V to devastating effect.
Absolutely. We do see Kevin taking a KO there with the Outrage. That quick ball for Dedenne being the decisive play. And we talked yesterday about the fact that it is important that, there is a new Victini in Battle Styles, Victini V. But actually, the one from Sword and Shield is just better. And that is one of the reasons we don't see Victini V attacking all that often. Because you do need quite a bit of energy on your opponent's Pokemon to really be able to punish. But especially with Tag Team GXs, or those tag team attacks that do require so much energy, at the right time, that Victini V can be a real powerful attacker, and that basically ended the game there. As soon as Victini got that attack, it was a huge uphill climb for Jeremy to get back in the game, and just wasn't able to do so.
Yeah, almost a head slap moment for Jeremy where he thinks, I can go in, I can commit to this tag bolt, there's nothing that can knock me out. Let's just shove it all into the active. And then Kevin comes with the easy response with the giant half welder play, Eldegoss recovering and just making a huge swing. I think Jeremy will look back and think possibly could have gone for a paralysis play or could have loaded up those energies to the bench Mewtwo instead to be safeguarded around a sort of big burst of attachments for the Victini. But yeah, lots of people thought that the Victini VMAX was only going to be this sort of post-rotation thing, but the regular V really helps you fight the fight against the other VMAX archetypes, the tag team archetypes that are still in the game right now. So we'll jump into this next one and see how Jeremy can react if he has a different game plan for the second one.
Absolutely. Well, let's head on over into game 2 then, see if Jeremy is going to play things a little bit differently, see if Victini is, really going to make a splash. And we did see Victini V seeing a little bit of play here and there, being teched into some of these Firebox decks since the release of Sword and Shield, but it really is with the release of the V Max that Victini is taking its place in the format, and it really does look like it is a deck that is absolutely here to stay. I mean, we're watching all 4 of the winners semi-finalists. There's no Urshifu here. All the Urshifu have dropped down into the losers bracket or been eliminated. So in terms of the new decks from Battle Styles, it does seem like this Victini V Max deck is at the moment, and it's very early on, but it is the one that's seeming like it's got the more legs.
And Kevin starts off with Mew. It's not only an Urshifu counter, it can be helpful in this matchup. Jeremy probably isn't going to go committing towards that tag bot again after what we've just seen in the first game. But Kevin is going to go ahead and put down Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star and attach to his Victini. Jeremy plays no counter stadium to this. So Kevin has found a really early way to stop an aggressive Boltund play. It forces Jeremy to not only find an energy for Boltund, but also a Dance of the Ancients on top. So disruptive stuff from Kevin when he can easily weld his way out of range of the Wondrous Labyrinth next turn. So huge pickup in this early stage.
Yeah, it's a stadium card that increases the attack cost for non-fairy Pokemon by 1 colorless energy. So Boltund can't electrify for a lightning, it's a lightning colorless. Full Blitz isn't free lightning, it's free lightning and a colorless. But Victini V Max turns into 2 fire and a colorless. But like you've said, Welder, attached for the turn, Welder, there's your free energy. It is far, far less important. And it's a little point, but it does force Jeremy to have a little bit of extra energy, which could potentially be punished by Victini V.
And Jeremy, not with the best of hands, may just be forced to Crushing Hammer and research it all away. Especially with a Wondrous Labyrinth, you cannot afford to attach to this Dedenne GX. You have to go ahead and get a fresh one. We do see the early Boltund and the Tapu Koko. You have some quick balls as well to reach further with Crobats or Dedennes, so that research has actually been really strong for him.
It has, and you've got 2 lightning energy in the discard for Dance of the Ancients and Tapu Koko, but those 2 speed lightning energy are special energy. They're not coming back. They are gone for the game. So as much as it drew Jeremy into a better hand and it got the basic in a discard, which is good, it also lost 2 special energy, which you are not looking for here.
Jeremy's going to be picking up a second Bolton by the looks of things. I think there's already one in hand, I believe, or he's just going to ball search this one out. I can't really remember, but he has a second... Yeah, he has a second quick ball anyway, so he can also search, as we say, for Dedenne or Crobat. So, yeah, he does have double Bolton, so he's going to be committing to both by the looks of things, or just throwing one away. Okay. It's interesting, though, because if you're going for fodder, I would have thought that Pikachu and Zekrom would be the best fodder in the deck, because it's something you want to copy with Mewtwo anyway. So that's an interesting shout.
That is an interesting shout, but I think it's just a case of, you know what, well, I suppose you really want the Mewtwo and Mew in the early game, don't you? So
yeah.
This is yeah, you're right. That is an interesting one because at the moment, if we don't hit a Mewtwo here, which we don't, you've got to attach to Raichu and Alolan Raichu rather than, say, a Pikachu and Zekrom to full blitz next turn.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be doing the 2 energy electrify play here. Jeremy has found the way around the Wondrous Labyrinth, but it's still coming at a cost because you can lose an extra energy on the Bolton quite easily to a Victini next turn, and you're only left with Raichu and Alolan Raichu that needs 4 energy to be attacking, and there'll be, you know, no time soon any kind of full blitz action to maintain attackers throughout the game here. Kevin's got a really nice... He's got himself into a nice position already this turn.
He really has. I mean, there's 2 things that these Pikachu and Zekrom decks have. Well, 3 things in order to accelerate energy. Electrify, but if Victini VMAX comes out, that's gone. Dance of the Ancients, but that's already been used. And Full Blitz, but it's 4 energy, and you don't have Electrify or Dance of the Ancients anymore. So it's kind of... You've got Raichu and Alolan Raichu. If Kevin can take a KO here... Then, he's not going to be able to take a KO without replacing the stadium, though, because he can't Welder anymore.
Yeah, had to play the research. Yeah, so hoping to hit one of his 2 Giant Hearth to take any, to capitalize really on this early defensive play that he's made. We do see a communication, can still go fishing with his own Crobats and Dedennes here. He's going to go ahead and protect an Eldegoss. And of course, if he already has pieces going for him, he can try and VMAX up and start swinging into the Bolton. You can easily take a 1-hit KO on the Bolton. If you do establish that VMAX, you do need to replace that stadium. That's the thing that's going to be the most awkward. Kevin is going to commit a Cramorant into play as well. There's already a Dedenne GX on Jeremy's side, so there's an obvious target for you there. And we are going to see the Dedenne change, looking mostly for the stadium bounce here by the looks of things.
Indeed, chooses to discard the energy, so it's there for Fire Crystal later. But of course, it doesn't matter so much, because either he hits the stadium, which will get the energy, or he doesn't hit the stadium, and even attaching the energy doesn't get the attack. Having said that, if he doesn't draw an energy here, there might be a little bit of regret that, and I've done this so many times, you don't attach an energy because you'd rather attach after a Dedenne, a support, or whatever. And then if you don't hit the energy and you whiff that attachment, that can be pretty bad.
Yeah, I think he could even have in the back of his mind, he could even try a 2-energy Spreading Flames attack, where you just put the 2 back onto the Cramorant on the bench. That could also have been in the back of his mind. Let's see if he has... He's taking his time here, Kevin, so he may be pushing once again even further, or he could be looking for a better target to Spreading Flames onto here if he wants to develop possibly a tag team or a backup Victini V here.
Absolutely. If you go for something like a Crobat, you can draw more cards, but there's already a Kricketune and a Cramorant and a Dedenne and a Mew out on the bench. And sure, Cramorant's an attacker, but Cramorant is very much a backup specialist attacker. It's not an every-turn attacker like Reshiram and Charizard, like Victini V Max. You really do want another just everyday utility attacker, but it is Crobat V. So Kevin is digging here, and in a very good position, let's be clear, but could be running short of attackers at some point in the near future.
Let's see just how close he is. I think he may have a few more cards that he can thin if he is actually going for the Crobat. I think a 2-draw Hail Mary seems quite greedy to me with the board position that we're at. So maybe he's going to proactively play Switch. Maybe he already has an energy drop that he can put down to make this Crobat more likely to get him there.
There's a switch. You're right about that one.
Yeah. Could be switching into the Victini. At the very least, he could be Spreading Flamesing. So 3 cards here. Stadium Bounce is ideal for him.
There's the VMAX.
He can still Spreading Flames with the VMAX. Both the V and the VMAX have this attack.
Same attack. It's really weird. And bearing in mind, they came out 4 sets apart. So they printed a VMAX in the 5th Sword and Shield set for the same attack as the first. And there we go. There, we've got it. And then we get the energy using Giant Half. Now Bolton goes down with Jeremy's energy. And the good news is Raichu and Alolan Raichu has free energy. The bad news is it's his only attacker. And that is not a good hand right now.
That is massive tempo from Kevin, taking a 2-prize KO, 2 energies off the board. Jeremy doesn't really have the leeway to electrify again. He's, 3 turns away from setting up any sort of backup for this Raichu. Does pick up the air balloon now, so at least he can retreat the Dedenne easily. He can go ahead and Yell Grunt as well as Paralyze here. He may still need to hold this stamp for a later stage. I think he just retreat and Paralyze here.
But you're pretty much going into this turn. I mean, at this stage, if we look at Jeremy's board and the options and everything else, it looks like Jeremy is 1 game down in this match and basically putting all his eggs in the Raichu and Alolan Raichu basket. And I don't know if that one Pokemon is going to have enough juice to get him over the line here. Going to need to take, well, 2 or 3 KOs on big Pokemon. And I don't think this is going to work out very well for Jeremy unless something drastic changes, and I don't see what's going to change.
The only good news is that Kevin is kind of board locked here. He doesn't have the access to the Dedennes and Crobats to get him towards more switch outs. He played a switch last turn. He possibly would have played multiple if he wanted to draw more cards from Crobat as well as a potential indicator for Jeremy here. It's all you can really play with. You have to go for this tandem shot play. Jeremy's just debating whether or not Stamp is the right time now, because Kevin could get some small Kricketune value. He could half for no target or half for 1 and just attach. Jeremy could even be eyeing up a Lightning Ride here for 150, and then you just feed a Crobat and then make a Stamp play even stronger next turn. I think that's what Jeremy's eyeing up here, trying to make the most of Reset Stamp. Actually going to go back into Dedenne and say that Kevin has to find Switch Welder for a Cramorant play.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. I think if you switch into the Crobat, the problem is it's energy drop 2 prizes for Kevin. And I know it makes a Stamp stronger, but you really want to let your opponent go up 4 prizes to 0 to make your Stamp stronger? It can work. We've seen massive comebacks off the back of Reset Stamp. But I think Jeremy, and again, we're in this weird position where Dedenne is in the active tanking because it's the beefiest thing you've got. That's weird.
It is weird, isn't it? Ritini is so specific at dealing with V Pokemon. But that's why Kevin plays the Cramorant. Cramorant is always got his eyes on Dedennes. That's the main thing that Spit Shot takes out all the time. And Kevin has been able to once again get the Giant Half value. Does turn attached to the VMAX. We're going to see a boss's orders come in. Nice.
This is huge. This is huge because now you get the KO on the Crobat, and now if Cramorant attacks, Kevin wins the match. Not just a game, the match. He goes into winners finals. If Kevin can attack with Cramorant, he is in the top 4 and has got that invite to a future international with a travel award and all of that, because as it stands at the moment, one Spit Shot will take out that Dedenne, and it doesn't matter where that Dedenne is on the field. So Jeremy does play his Reset Stamp, does put Kevin down to a 2-card hand, and Kevin is board locked, but I think this will be exactly a KO here.
We're getting the KO. Kevin can promote his Kricketune to at least get a couple more cards. He can also use Giant Half to potentially thin a card and attach to the Cramorant, or if he's already holding on to the Welder, that would be really bad for Jeremy, who's finally got himself some prizes, which gets him out of an awkward hand himself here. Kevin basically has the 1-turn clock, but already promotes the Cramorant. That means he might already have what he needs.
It's energy and a Welder. Because Giant Half will get 2 of the free energy you need. So you need 1 energy and a Welder. I'm surprised he didn't put the Kricketune active. And there's Fire Crystal. That's free energy.
This could be why.
Yeah. If one of those
not even
cards is a Welder.
Kricketune.
It's a Dedenne.
Wow, nice. Okay.
I like this.
Attachment. Still has the hearth open. That's why we didn't see any Kricketune plays. Didn't want to have to also find a switch on top. So going to get a fresh 6 cards here. Can he access Welder? Only 1 played so far. Also plays Pokegears. You haven't seen Air Balloon come onto Kricketune V now. And a Rope.
I love it. So you rope into Kricketune so it can free retreat. So now Kricketune, actually can't draw any cards yet. But it will if Kevin can just empty a card or 2 out of his hand. Try and dig for that Welder with Kricketune. And I'm surprised more people don't play Kricketune. It seems like it should be in almost every deck. It's so good. It draws you up to 3 cards, up to 4 if it's active. It really is a great card for some draw consistency. But, I mean, is Kevin actually just putting it up there and passing?
He could be. It doesn't feel like... I think he promotes something else if you're just going for a pass play. So
There
quick
we
ball
go.
means he is going to lower his hand size a little bit more for the exciting stage ability to draw 2 cards by the looks of things here for a last chance Saloon Welder play, which will win him the game, let's not forget. He is actually going to choose to take a Pokemon here, so possibly just going to be halved away, some extra fodder here. So he's not needing the energy. That might mean he already has the Crystal in hand.
There's 2 off the exciting stage. Do we have a Welder? Welder would end the match right here. Kricketune got the air balloon. It can retreat. Cramorant's already got 1 energy on. That Dedenne is sitting on the field. It doesn't... You would think if Kevin had it, we would have seen it. But, and you're right. He would put something else active if he was passing. And, in fact, it would be Crobat.
And now Jeremy has a good position here. If he can boss his orders up the Cramorant, he can be pretty safeguarded against a lot of things. Kevin can't really burst many big attacks onto the scene, especially if you're taking the KO of Raichu and Alolan Raichu. There's no like sort of double blaze plays that Kevin could make for a big KO. So I think Jeremy has to push for boss's orders here.
Yeah, I think it's the only way Jeremy wins at this stage. That Cramorant is absolutely the win condition for Kevin at this stage, but it's weak to lightning, and it doesn't have that much HP to begin with, so it's not going to be difficult to get a KO with Raichu and Alolan Raichu onto that Cramorant. So it is all about boss's orders, and of course, Eldegoss. This is why people play Eldegoss. You play it down, it grabs the supporter from your discard. Gee whiz, I wonder what he's going to pick. And that Cramorant is going to be going down this turn.
Yep, it forces so much out of Kevin now. And I think Jeremy's right back in the driver's seat of this game. Kevin had a dig for win, but just wasn't able to get there. And now Jeremy is sat with a pretty easy path here. He can go ahead with his Raichu and Alolan Raichu to take the initial KO for 2 prizes here. And then everything on Kevin's side currently is pretty vulnerable to a KO next turn because there's enough energy in play for Jeremy to just finish the game with Boltons. He's got himself into a really nice spot.
This is looking very, very strong indeed. And I'm sitting there a couple turns ago being like, you don't want to go down to 2 prizes for your opponent and play a recess stamp. And Jeremy's like, well, actually, Ross, you know what? Not the worst plan.
Sometimes it works, especially against welding decks where the supporter needs more steps involved. You can't just go ahead and rip a welder. You already need to have the energies in hand. So it's a small combination that you need. And Kevin was without it that 1 turn. So the window's open for Jeremy now to close next turn. He doesn't need to do anything, really. It's down to Kevin to maybe make Reshiram and Charizard or a Mewtwo and Mew tag team here and try and at least put a chunkier Pokemon into the active and force boss's orders from Jeremy.
Yeah, I think that's about the play. Like you say, everything that's out at the moment, Bolton's like, yep, that'll do. So Kevin needs something bigger. I mean, a Cramorant Welder play would be amazing right now, but I'm fairly sure Kevin only actually plays the 1 copy. And these Fire decks, they don't play any Pokemon recovery. So it's out now. Cramorant is not coming back. We see Professor's research, but what is Kevin even digging for here?
I think what you have to do is attach to a Mewtwo and tank a hit of some sort somehow. Because you're researching, you're still miles behind in terms of attacks. You kind of had to welder to a tag team if it was going to get enough value here. He doesn't play anything like Escape Rope to make it easier for him next turn. The Quick Ball's going to fail the search.
That's not a good
Kevin
sign.
has any outs here.
Did he put the energy on the Mew this turn?
Ah, yeah, he did actually attach to Mew this turn. I didn't see that attachment. So he's trying to set up for Flare Strike somehow, or he's setting up for... Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's setting up for.
No. There's 1 energy on the board that's on the Mew, which could go on to a Heatran at some point. We see exciting stage. Kevin's clearly thinking there's something in his deck. And, it's a Reshiram and Charizard, but he drops a well played, passes over to Jeremy, and at the moment, I don't think he has enough energy on the board to get the KO on the Reshiram and
2 draws for
Charizard.
boss. Yeah, 2 draws for boss by the looks of things with Speed Lightning.
Oh,
Not there
boss.
yet. Let's have a look
this is
into the deck.
Yeah. And you can't attack here, because if you attack, then you give Kevin the option of winning with an outrage next turn.
Yep.
So you have to pass.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Or you can, you can't even use Bolton to electrify. You just have to sit here with your Raichu.
Yeah, because if you move out the active, there is a chance for a 200 damage GX attack, and the only thing that won't KO is Raichu and Alolan Raichu, so you do have to just leave Raichu and Alolan Raichu in the active and just pass the turn.
You probably still play Research here, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's going for Paralysis play. So that forces Switch Boss from Kevin? Oh, no, not Switch Boss, because he can't do both. He can't Outrage all in one turn. So the Paralysis is still fine here, right?
Yeah. It works.
Jeremy not to play any supporter at all. He's going to try and two-shot his way through this Reshiram and Charizard by the looks of things.
Yeah, because the Outrage will not do quite enough from there. So, all right, the Paralysis works. I don't think it really changes very much. We do see the switch here into the Kricketune. And we do see a Welder. But unfortunately, there's not very much there. So, there's only actually one energy going on. We do see energy, but Outrage won't be enough.
No, we're not there. Kevin doesn't play... Oh, he does play one Escape Rope, but he can't go... Yeah, he can't go back in. And 190 anyway doesn't mean Escape Rope wouldn't have won. It would have been 10 shy on the Bolton. So Jeremy can just retreat into Bolton now and take the KO with Bolt Storm. A Nail Biter. Kevin wasn't quite able to piece together that Cramorant win condition that he'd set up so nicely, and Jeremy, over a couple of turns, was able to slowly just get over the line with a really important reset stamp there.
And we kind of seen both sides of this Pikachu and Zekrom deck now over the last couple of matches. We saw Pikachu and Zekrom doing the whole, look how fast and consistent I can be. And now we've just seen the whole, look, I know I didn't have a great start, and I went down by 4 prizes. Yeah, we all saw it, but I came back pretty nicely there, didn't I? Reset stamp and just picking away. And actually, these Welder decks, if you don't get that energy and keep it on the board, you can end up with an endgame like we just saw from Kevin, where, hey, if he gets Welder and Boss's orders in one turn, well, hang on a second, that's not going to work. That's 2 supporters. And you actually, like you say, there's that puzzle, and you never get all the pieces, and then you end up actually dropping the game.
Yeah, there's no surprise that Pikachu and Zekrom is still such a good deck. It's because it has the best comeback win condition of any archetype. You're doing terribly, it doesn't matter. I can still paralyze and reset stamp and make my way back into the game slowly. So yeah, that's why the deck just won't go anywhere until it finally rotates, because it still has the best way to come back no matter how far behind you are, as we saw expertly there from Jeremy.
Yeah, and Jeremy making me look silly a few times there. I'm going, I don't like going through the rest of this game with just Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Well, you know what? Raichu and Alolan Raichu just won Game 2, so let's head on into Game 3 and see if Raichu and Alolan Raichu can go ahead and do it again. So I was wrong about the Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and I was wrong about the reset stamp, and turns out Jeremy's quite good with this deck.
He knows Pikachu and Zekrom. It's been around long enough to get enough games in with it to really know how to pilot it, and... Again, I think Jeremy will be probably still allowed to go second. Kevin may force him first, actually, here. Both decent options, actually, because Kevin's good going second himself. Let's see what he actually goes for. This is an interesting choice, because you like to go first as Victini to punish a Bolton, but you also don't like them having a free Electrify either.
No, it's an interesting one. And like you said, you can still have, to be fair, if you go second and you don't mind burning your GX attack early, you can get the turn 1 200 damage on Reshiram and Charizard, which will get a KO on a Dedenne, on a Bolton. Now, we know that's not what's in the active now, but that is always an option. So I don't mind Kevin going second, because you know what? Reshiram and Charizard can get some key KOs turn 1 going second.
So that's exactly what we're seeing. Kevin forcing Jeremy first, who does have a really nice radar, throwing 2 lightning energies into the discard pile. Already has Dance of the Ancients, so we'll probably see attachment onto the Pikarom here, setting up a turn 2 full blitz by the looks of things. Really nice start for him.
Not bad at all. And this is one of the things you see when these decks go first. When they go second, Bolt under Electrify, it's too easy, it's too obvious, it's too good. That is a general plan. But when you go first, a lot of the time that Electrify is just a bit slower than you'd like, but you've had the time to establish that full blitz to get it on the board, and then you end up accelerating more energy while doing damage. And We didn't actually see much Pikachu and Zekrom in the first 2 games. Looks like Game 3 might be a little different here.
Now there's 2 of them. They're both coming into play. They are that little bit more fragile, especially against regular Victini V, because they only have 240. Jeremy looks like he's going to be holding on to this hand. Kind of doesn't want to get rid of Reset Stamp too early by the looks of things, and wants to potentially hold on to Crushing Hammer as well as a potential way to peg Kevin back a turn.
Absolutely. And to be fair, Jeremy does not need much next turn. Dance of the Ancients can already get at least 1 energy, so it really is just a switch energy attachment, and full blitz is off. And I think this game we'd probably see Jeremy full blitzing onto the second Pikachu and Zekrom or onto a Mew. I don't think we're going to see 6 energy on 1 Pokemon here. I think Victini has made that a little bit too scary.
The interesting thing is, if you don't dance, it's interesting to see the second Pikarom actually come into play. It could have been held in hand, I think, because it keeps a board space open for you if it were to be a Mewtwo later down the line, if you do go ahead and research or Dede change, because you kind of have to next turn. No 1-card combination allows you to get there unless random top deck of Speed Lightning gets you into, like, Air Balloon or something. So I kind of would have liked to seen the second Pikachu and Zekrom held in hand this turn if Jeremy chose not to Dede change and throw it all away. So that's an interesting shout from him. But Kevin's got himself a quick ball for the opening. As always, looking for the early game Welder Pokemon, the Victini, the Reshiram and Charizard, or could also be looking to draw cards as well this turn, depending on what his hand looks like.
Absolutely. And if you're Kevin going into this game, it's a little bit weird. You won game 1, things are looking good. In game 2, you're up, you're feeling really good. You just missed the Cramorant when you've got the win condition already on the board. And then all of a sudden you end up tied 1-1. And then you see Jeremy having a pretty good start. And it's not ideal. Kevin was feeling really confident, but now we've got Cramorant.
Kevin's going to try and take the 1 prize knockout on Tapu Koko, I think. That's what he's eyeing up. He's saying, if you're not going to dance, I'm going to deal with it.
I love it.
That full blitz. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a Prism Star Pokemon, remember? That means that when it is discarded, it goes to the lost zone from which it cannot be recovered. And that means, and we said, you need Dance of the Ancients to get the turn 2 full blitz. So Kevin's going, well, you know what? If I get rid of your Dance of the Ancient Tapu Koko, that means that you're not attacking next turn. So not only does Kevin go up by a prize, but he pretty much guarantees that he's not having anything bad happening next turn.
Yeah, and if everything goes right, he could also start benching Victini Vs for future turns as well. So we are going to see communication for Crobat V. Looks like Kevin is trying to piece together Welder options. Normally when you Crobat rather than Dedenne, it means he's holding on to one of 2 things. He's either got enough energy in hand already, or he's already got the Welder, and then he needs the other part of the combo. So he's going to draw himself 4 fresh cards here. Can we see a turn 1 spit shot response from Kevin here for just the 1 prize? But like we say, it basically buys back a turn for him. Let's see what we see.
It would be huge. Oh, there is the Welder, and only 1 energy.
That is rough. Because now you need to move your Cramorant, because it's weak to lightning, and you can't leave it out here. It's an easy 2 prizes for Jeremy.
Oh, you see the air balloons will be able to get out of the active, but this is a huge swing. That would have been absolutely fantastic. And he had...
It's off the Welder. He drew it off.
Oh, drew off I was going to say, that was really confusing for a second.
It's always one of those things where you think, just slightly out of reach. But the rope is still being awkward because Jeremy selected his 1 energy attachment Pikarom. Almost like a call my bluff play. Jeremy could go ahead and still develop Boltund here for an easy path to Electrify if all else fails from this research. But I imagine we'll just be seeing Crushing Hammer research, looking for potential switches. He has the option to Dance of the Ancients on all sorts of Pokemon here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the way to go. And of course, one thing we do, no energy though, although basic energy, because I was going to say, well, that Giant Half in play, that does allow Jeremy to just discard an energy, because I think there's only 1 in the discard. I could be wrong about that. And it's another Speed Lightning. And Kevin didn't need to play it down, but then again, if he's worried about things like Marnie, then he wants to kind of keep it in his, on the fields rather than in his hand, or it could get lost. Oh, no, there were 2 in the discard.
Jeremy could have gone for a play where he air balloons the Boltund or the Raichu, and then just Dede changes and looks for tag switch or just regular switch, and then you could still have gone switch balloon and still got the full blitz off if you go Dede changing here. But Dance of the Ancients first means he's settling for the Bolton, not wanting to get rid of a couple of resources, the Eldegoss most likely the most important one here. So instead settling with the Electrify, he could have gone higher tempo for a huge 150 swing, which could have set up numbers later, but instead he's just going to go for the standard approach of Bolton here. When you're not staring down a Victini V, it's a much better prospect because it forces a Reshiram and Charizard into play to take a response KO for Kevin this turn, and he's also been able to get a lot of energies into play to be threatening that attack from Bolton as well if it does stick around, the Bolt Storm.
Absolutely. We're seeing a very, very different game from Jeremy from last time. Now, we got a Bolton that can attack. We've got a Raichu and Alolan Raichu that can attack. We've got a Pikachu and Zekrom that can attack. We don't need one Raichu and Alolan Raichu playing hero and taking 6 prizes all by itself, which was an absolute delight to see. Now, we've actually got options on Jeremy's side of the board. And Kevin, from such a strong-looking start, now that easy prize isn't on the board, and there isn't really much Kevin's going to be able to do this turn unless he gets a welder onto a Reshiram and Charizard and uses his GX attack.
Yeah, I mean, all of these options look really awkward. If you're spit-shotting, you're just setting up damage by the looks of things. Possibly 160 into the Raichu or onto the Pikarom is reasonable for a setup for you. But you also want to get to work on your bench Pokemon because all he's got is a Victini right now with no energies attached to it. I'm going to see any welder at all this turn, or is he going to have to forego it once again?
I mean, without a welder, this is going to be super awkward. I believe he's still got attachment for the turn onto the Cramorant. Yes, he does. Yeah. So it looks like, well, we are going to see a spit shot. There isn't any other real viable attack that can be pulled off just with welder. So we are going to see a spit shot, presumably into one of those tag teams. And that will set them up in the future because Victini V Max hits 100 against a non-V. So with the 160 from spit shot, that would put both of those tag teams into Victini range. So it is relevant damage, but it's not what Kevin wanted.
No, it's certainly not. And Kevin has a difficult choice here. Yeah, he's going to go for the Raichu and Alolan Raichu. I think I do like this as the best option because the Pikachu and Zekrom just has, you know, it's one more energy in range for the regular Victini V. So this is, the Raichu is just a tankier Pokemon, so you may as well put the damage right there. Jeremy opting to attach to his Pikachu and Zekrom, so he can easily balloon out and full blitz to take a KO here, thanks to the weakness. Is holding on to a ton of researches, still doesn't want to get rid of his Eldegoss, is going to go ahead, take a big KO, and can continue to put energies all around his board. He can even power up the backup Pikarom now if he wants to.
I think that's what you want to do. Spread the energies around, really. Kevin's not one-hit KOing these tag teams very easily. So if you can have 3 tag teams and they're all being 2-hit KO'd, yes, Kevin can hit the bench easily with a Cramorant, but we've seen Cramorant is not the best attacker in this matchup because of its weakness to lightning. So I think this is looking really good for Jeremy at this stage. I'm liking his board setup. Game 2... it really did not look good for Jeremy. And as much as I joke, halfway through that game, Jeremy needed a few things to go his way to really claw back in. This game, we are not in the same position. Jeremy is absolutely in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's role reversal. Now Kevin's the one hoping to buy back turns in one way or another, who has a lot to do here. Needs to try and still find some welder pieces. It's been his biggest struggle this game. He's only done a welder 1 attachment all game so far to a Cramorant, tried to go for an aggressive line, didn't pay off, the Crobat didn't get him there. He does establish another Victini V now, but what are you looking for? Are you just going to try and use the regular V again this turn and just hit for like 150 damage? That could be the line here.
I don't love that play because as we saw in the previous game, even if you're not getting the big Tag Bolt just does 200 for free energy. So that's a KO on Victini, at which point Jeremy goes down to 2 prizes remaining with multiple attackers set up. He's actually got Boss's orders in hand. There's Crobats and Dedenes. I mean, if Kevin attacks with Victini, he basically loses to Boss's orders.
Yeah, and that's not a spot you want to be in, especially against Pikarom, which can, you know, the amount of resources Jeremy has kept in hand means that he's got quite a robust hand against any hand disruption that Kevin can have, who plays, I think it's 1 Marnie and 1 reset stamp, so even then, there's not a lot in here. Kevin does find the VMAX at least, so a slightly tankier Pokemon to lean into, And he's going to be trying to set up a 2-shot by the looks of things with the max victory, if possible. Big poker gear here. Can he weld at all? Just a Marnie. It might. So Marnie spreading flames, possibly. Yeah, still missing welder.
Oh, that is not ideal. And the thing Jeremy's got going for him is he is going to force Kevin into an 8-prize game. Because there is 1 2-prize Pokemon on the board. So Kevin, he either has to knock out 2 tag teams, and if he takes out the Boltund, which is an easy prize for Victini, that's the 8-prize game. So we see a Spreading Flames, and you have to KO one of the Pikachu and Zekrom and finish off a Raichu and Load and Raichu. That's the only way to get a 6-prize game going on here. So the only easy prize on the board is Boltund, and you can't go after the Boltund. Although Jeremy is obviously going to try and force him to go after the Boltund because, 8-prize game.
Boltund can take the KO here. There's 10 energies in play. That's enough.
Oh, man.
That's absurd damage output from Boltund. This is what can happen with Pikachu and Zekrom if it's just not dealt with. And Jeremy is going to Giant Hearth away his Team Yell Grunt, and he's going to go ahead and play this Marnie, mostly to dig deeper into the deck to try and find boss's orders for next turn, because that's all he's going to need. But yeah, Boltund, what a huge shift he's put in this game. Look how many energies around the field for Jeremy. It's absolutely incredible.
And Electrify is good enough. Electrify is a good enough reason to justify playing Boltund, even as a 2-prize Pokemon V. There are so many games where Boltund is what gets you rolling in the early game, especially going second. But having this big attack, which apparently can one-hit KO V maxes, just in the background as a handy bonus really is absurd. So Bolt Storm's going to do 30 damage for each energy, plus 10 base. That is exactly 310. Victini, unfortunately, is one of the lowest HP V maxes we do see in the game. There aren't many that would be KO'd by that attack, but that's kind of irrelevant right now because Victini was.
Yeah, so Kevin has to try and re-establish a VMAX here. He can easily respond on the Boltund, but as you say, it's that 8-prize game that Jeremy's forcing now. The Boltund's so threatening that you can't not deal with it. You have to take the KO on it. We could even be seeing Kevin, yeah, he's going to go ahead and re-establish his Marnie with the Eldegoss here. We're going to see the Hearth first, pulling some energies out of the deck so he doesn't draw into them, because he needs to hit a VMAX once again this turn.
Does. Down comes the Marnie, and this is going to put Jeremy to a smaller hand, but Kevin is really on the back foot here. Doesn't even have any bench space. Once again, he's got 5 support Pokemon on the bench, so there are no other attackers coming out.
I think that's game. There's bosses orders in hand for Jeremy. Kevin can respond, but Jeremy's gone straight back into those bosses orders. He can easily take the KO. He can retreat, attach to Raichu, and just tandem shock his way. Or tag Bolt GX as well. Even going to take the Mew so that math is out of the equation and just take an attack with the full blitz here.
Yeah, unfortunately for Kevin, Jeremy just set up his board phenomenally. And that really was the story of that game 3, Jeremy's board. Jeremy set up his board so well that everything Kevin got going. And Kevin whiffed Welder on a couple of turns. Kevin did not have a great game. He didn't draw brilliantly. He missed some of those well.